So, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this conference. Sister Malini has already covered quite a bit of what I am going to say. So, let me just begin. Planning for access creation. As all of us know, CKD is becoming the leading cause of death in India, and the incidence and prevalence of kidney diseases is going up with the kind of comorbid illnesses like diabetes, blood pressure that we have, and there are about more than 180,000 new patients who develop ESRD and require renal replacement therapy every year. And hemodialysis stays as the most common form of renal replacement therapy in India. And the vascular access is considered as the lifeline as well as the Achilles heel for this therapy. So, when do we start thinking about access creation? Definitely, we have to start thinking about it in the pre-dialysis stages of CKD. Now, when it comes to planning a vascular access, there are many things that we have to keep in mind. It's not only the patient's disease, but multiple factors which come into play: the physician's opinion, the patient's outlook towards the disease, the stage of CKD that comes into the play. So, it is very important to consider every patient's ESRD life plan. And as Malini sister had also suggested, that access should be placed at the right time, under the right circumstances, in the right patient for the right reasons. So if you go to see this figure, there are so many factors that we have to consider while planning and vascular access for the patient. The main factors would be considering the age, the comorbid illnesses like diabetes, peripheral vascular disease, especially if there are older age groups, if they have diseased vessels, then the AV fistula creation will be a problem in such patients. Then it comes to physician-based factors like understanding what is the level of kidney function, what is the trajectory of decline of the kidney disease, and the patient traits like how educated the patient is, how much driven the patient is to understand the whole setting of dialysis and acceptance of him, the cultural factors, the outlook of the relatives, the caregivers. So if we go to see what is the timing that we have to consider, that okay, now is the time that we start talking about creation of the access. So various organizations have suggested that it should be around stage 4, that the GFR, when it is less than 30 ml per minute, that is the time that we start talking about that the patient needs a vascular access, because once the patient reaches stage 5, that is the time we will have to use the access. So the KDOQI guidelines suggest that it is reasonable that in a non-dialysis CKD patient with progressive decline in kidney function, referral for access assessment and creation should be done when the eGFR is between 15 to 20 ml per minute. And if the GFR is declining at a faster rate, that is more than 10 ml per minute per year, then we should consider an earlier referral. So what is this dialysis access plan? Each one of us should have an access plan for our patients, which includes the following steps like scheduling an appointment with a nephrologist, determining which type of dialysis treatment is going to be suitable, whether it's going to be PD or it's going to be HD, then determining the best access for the patient, meeting up with the vascular surgeon, having the access created, waiting for the access to heal, using the access, and the most important part, which we all forget, learning how to take care of the access once we start using it. So what are the options for dialysis access as per the ESKD life plan? As I suggest, I'll move forward and talk about it in this flow chart. Now, we have to first see what is the likelihood of long-term survival. If we know that the patient is going to survive beyond 1 year, then that is going to be a good case or a patient to look for AV access. So we have to assess what is the feasibility of creation of an AV access in these patients. How well are the vessels, the arterial diameter, the venous diameter? If all these conditions are favorable, then we go ahead at creation of AV fistula. If they are not favorable, then we have to consider a AV graft or a tunnel catheter. If the patient's long-term survival is questionable, that we expect that the patient is not going to survive long, if the patient is older age group or has a concomitant serious condition in which patient might not survive longer, then we will have to see that we have to not choose AV fistula, but instead choose a AV graft or a tunnel catheter in such case. Another thing would be if the patient has opted for conservative treatment, then definitely there's going to be no dialysis and no dialysis access is required. If the patient is planning for a preemptive transplant, so we don't need an access at the moment, but once the patient will be admitted for transplant, then we will have to think of a short-term dialysis. So we could use a tunnel catheter in those cases. If the patient has opted for peritoneal dialysis, then we will have a PD catheter to be placed. Also, simultaneously, we should think that if in case the PD catheter does not function well or the patient has some complications with the PD, then which will be our next access. So, as I said, once we establish the access and we start using the access, we should always have in mind that in case that this access is giving problems, what will be the next access that we will have to choose. So that should be a point where we should keep in our mind in advance, so that next time the patient has a problem, we know what to do. Also, if we have an access, we should cause a timely shift to either kidney transplant or PD whenever it is feasible and appropriate. If the patient is on catheters, we should motivate the patient to shift to an AV fistula or an AV graft as soon as possible or whenever it is feasible. Also, a secondary shift from AV graft to AV fistula when the graft is failing, that also should be planned. So what is an ideal vascular access? Something which is easy to construct, where there is no foreign material involved, there are no chances of thrombosis, infections, something which is easy to cannulate, is long lasting and gives us a good blood flow. And therefore, we say that AVF is the preferred vascular access for dialysis because it has a lower infection rate, lower thrombosis rate, less expensive, and less overall morbidity. If we consider out of the three vascular accesses, fistula, graft, and catheters, the least incidence of infection is seen in AV fistulas. The least incidence of thrombosis is in AV fistulas, and definitely the patency rate of AV fistula is more than the AV grafts. So moving over to what are the renal replacement therapy modalities that we have. As we just discussed, first is hemodialysis, where we use either an AV fistula, where we anastomose an artery to a vein. Then there is AV graft, where we use a graft which helps us anastomose the artery to the vein. And third is the central venous catheters, which would include tunnel catheters as well as temporary catheters. Moving on to peritoneal dialysis, this also includes insertion of catheter into the peritoneal membrane, and it helps to cause the exchange of the solutes across the peritoneal membrane. So what are the factors which helps us to decide that which renal replacement therapy would be the best for our patients? So there are multiple factors that we keep in mind: understanding the patient's comorbidities, the socioeconomic status, the functional status. Like there are certain patients who want to be active, they have a working lifestyle, they need to visit work, so they cannot visit the hospital every alternate day. So in such cases, if they are motivated and driven, then definitely PD would be a better option for them. While the other case, patients who do not want to do the dialysis at home by themselves, instead they want to visit the hospital center and get the dialysis done through a nursing technician or a doctor, then they choose the hemodialysis as the option. So there are certain advantages and disadvantages of each modality. Like hemodialysis has the advantages that it is performed by a staff. Patient visits the hospital, so he will have ongoing medical follow-up and medical attention when he visits the hospital. It could be a source of socialization as well for the patient. When he visits the hospital, meets other patients, he can talk to the patients and get some perspective from there. Also, they visit the hospital and come back, so it's like a short course of treatment for them. but it has its own disadvantages like vascular access, using more of central lines, increased chances of infection, more visit to the hospital, increased risk of hypotension. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of hemodialysis. Now coming to peritoneal dialysis, the advantages are that a patient can stay at home. It can be performed by some family member for him. Patient does not have to visit the hospital time and again. It has improved BP control. It helps in preserving the residual renal function. Those patients who have low blood pressure or cardiovascular instability, in those cases, PD is a better option. But the side effects would again be, it's socially isolating. Patient would be at home most of the time. There would be chances of peritonitis if the handling is not done well. Patient would require more hygiene to be maintained at home by the operator and the patient himself. So coming to talking about the myths about our accesses. So what are the myths that we come across when we are dealing with catheters? Quite a lot of people feel that catheters are the first choice of access for CKD patients. Definitely, if the patient presents to us in a uremic stage and it's an emergency, then yes, we have to insert a catheter and start dialysis. But if it's a CKD patient who is on regular follow-up, then a planned approach will definitely be more helpful than an emergency start of dialysis. And in that case, AV fistula is the optimal vascular access because it is associated with prolonged survival, fewer infections, lower hospitalization rates, and reduced cost. Also, there was a Fistula First initiative which had come into effect in 2003. And with that initiative, definitely the prevalence of the first access being AV fistula has gone up from 32% to 60% in 2011. And definitely it's much more in the next 10 years that we have been through. Also, people feel that catheters are the best choice of access. No, as we discussed previously, AV fistulas are the best choice of vascular access for our patients. But catheters can be considered and would be preferred in certain scenarios, like if it's a short-term duration where the fistula is created, but it is still not ready for use, then patient can use a catheter for dialysis. In cases of acute transplant rejection, or in PD patients where they are suffering from peritonitis and we need to give a peritoneal rest, then catheters will be more effective. In patients who have a preemptive transplant which is planned in less than 90 days, then we can use the catheter. Or if there is an AV fistula and graft complication where we need to rest the AV fistula, so we can use the catheters. In long-term cases, which are the cases that we consider that we should use a fistula, we should use a catheter instead of a fistula, would be if there have been prior multiple failed AV fistulas and we are left with no options now of creation of an AV access. Or if the patient themselves want to, prefer a catheter. Sometimes we have patients who don't want to make an AV fistula for cosmetic reasons or don't want to go through the needle pricking each time. If they choose that we don't want an AV fistula and we want to go ahead with the catheter, then a tunnel catheter for long term would be an option. If patients have a limited life expectancy, or else if the vessels are so pathology that they cannot be used for creation, if there is a vein problem or an artery problem, in that cases we can use a catheter. And in some cases where there are infants and children who do not have good vessels, we use catheters for a long time. Another myth that we come across is that patients feel that temporary catheters can be used for a long time, or they can be used for bridging their therapy to reaching up to the maturation of AV fistula. That is, they can wait for about 6 weeks and use the temporary catheters. Mainly when we come across patients who are not very affording or in smaller centers, we see them using the temporary catheters for a very long time. So KDOQI has suggested that catheters which are non-tunneled should be used only for a maximum of 2 weeks, because beyond that there are chances of infection and central venous stenosis as well, and they should not be used for a longer period of time. Secondly, coming to location of dialysis catheters, what should be the location and order of preference that we should use? So internal jugular vein is the first preferred choice always. Next comes external jugular vein, then is femoral, then is subclavian, and last is lumbar. And always we should prefer right side catheters because the anatomy is direct instead of the left side. Only if we have any complications like, there is a pacemaker on the right, or there is a history of central stenosis, then we should go for the left side instead of the right side. Also, one thing which we always should be careful, many a times we see patient has a fistula on the left hand and people insert catheters on the left side. That should never be done, because if we have the catheter and the fistula on the same side, chances of central stenosis are high, and later date patient will be lining up into problems. Therefore, you should always insert a catheter on the opposite side of the fistula. One of the most important techniques and myths that everyone has is about catheter handling. I would suggest this is the most important thing, because even if the catheter is inserted, if it is not handled well, then chances of catheter related bloodstream infections go high. It adds to the patient's cost burden and hospitalization, which makes the situation worse. So every time we should have a good inspection of the exit site and tunnel. Dressing should not be done at each dialysis. It should be done weekly, or only if it is seen that it is soiled. And preferably, patients should be told to have a bath on the day when the dressing is going to be changed. So they take a bath, even if the dressing is wet, they come to the center and get the dressing changed that day. Aseptic precautions are very important. Hand hygiene is very important while handling the catheters. And one more thing, that we should avoid contact with alcohol-based solutions. We can use alcohol-based solutions for cleaning of the skin in and around the area of the catheter, but it should not come in contact with the catheter, because it damages the material of the catheter and affects the catheter in the long run. So what we should use over the catheter should be betadine solution or chlorhexidine. Next, coming to a very important point, which is surveillance and monitoring. What we feel that once the catheter is in place, our job is over. No, every time that the patient visits the center, either the doctor, nurse, or technician, they should ask for a basic medical history, whether patient has any signs and symptoms of fever or pain over the catheter site. Look at the exit site, look at the dialysis catheter tunnel, whether there is any redness or any pus discharge from that area, so that we can identify an infection and it can be treated appropriately at an earlier stage. PD catheter, like HD catheter, handling of PD catheter is also very important, because if you don't handle it really well, then chances of peritonitis are higher. Also, PD catheter, some people feel that it can be used right away. That is only in certain cases where we use an urgent start PD, that we use it in 48 hours. But in other cases, KLOKI considers it that it has to be placed at least 2 weeks before the anticipated start of PD treatments. So we should have at least 2 weeks before using the PD. Then coming to AV fistulas, people feel that, okay, fistula is created, 3 weeks ho gaya, 4 weeks ho gaya, let's start using it. No, there is a rule of 6. We have to wait at least 6 weeks old, that the fistula should be 6 weeks old. There is some parameters that we look at, that it should be less than 6 millimeters deep. We should have a 6 centimeter length where we can puncture the fistula. At least 6 dialysis should be done comfortably through the fistula to call it that it is a mature fistula. So these are the factors that we need to keep in mind. Next, coming to the cannulation techniques. Most of the time we feel that, okay, buttonhole technique, that is puncturing at the same place every time, is the best thing to do. No, KLOKI recommends that a rope ladder cannulation is the preferred cannulation technique. That if this is the segment of our fistula, then we keep changing the position, either go upwards or downwards, and keep changing the puncture position, like we see in this figure, that once we puncture here, once we puncture here, so that we are not puncturing the same site again and again. circumstances where we need to follow the buttonhole. In some cases, when we have a AV fistula aneurysm, which is large and there is no place for us to follow the rope ladder pattern, then yes, we have to go for a buttonhole pattern. Or else, if it's a very small segment for us to puncture, then a buttonhole technique can be used. Otherwise, in all the sections, the rope ladder cannulation is the one which is the preferred cannulation. And coming to the last part of it, everyone feels once the fistula is made, the work is done, it is being used, no evaluation or examination is needed. I would like to emphasize on something which is called as the VAS, vascular access surveillance. It just takes about 1 minute when we examine the fistula prior to cannulating it. I will show how that is to be done, but doing that helps us to identify any access dysfunction in which we can identify at an earlier age. So this is the 1 minute access exam that any nurse and technician or the doctor can be doing it at the bedside. First is to look at the fistula. If we find any aneurysms, any redness, any abnormal pulsations, that we can look onto the fistula. Second is to listen for a good bruit, feel for a good thrill. The arm elevation test, in which if we elevate the arm, the fistula should collapse. That means there is no central venous stenosis and the vessels are all patent. And the last is the augmentation test, which we do, and it helps us to identify if there is any inflow problem that pertaining to the artery. So this 1 minute exam can help us identify any problems. If we feel or suspect that there is something, then we can evaluate with a Doppler, and an earlier access intervention can help us save the fistula rather than lose it at a later date. Thank you.